You don't just win the morning and hope for the best. You engineer your morning to guarantee peak performance, sustained focus, and compound success. Master your morning, and you master your life. Win the morning, win the day. Morning routines of the top 1%. Before we dive in, hit like and subscribe if you enjoy these audiobooks. Comment where you're listening from and the time there. It motivates me to make more life-changing content for y'all, and it's always cool to see. Now let's begin. Chapter 1. The morning secret that changes everything. The world is asleep, but in one quiet corner of the city, a single light glows. Inside that office, a tech entrepreneur types with tunnel vision. No distractions, no phone, no noise, just pure, focused execution. It's 5:47 a.m., and they've already accomplished more than most people will by noon. This isn't luck. This isn't about being born disciplined. And it's definitely not about being a so-called morning person. This is the 5 a.m. advantage. And in a world full of hacks, distractions, and noise, this might be the closest thing to a real-life cheat code for success. But here's what people get wrong about waking up early. They think it's about the alarm clock. They obsess over the time, the routine, the discomfort of leaving the warm bed. But they miss the truth. Waking up early is not about the hour. It's about the head start. When the world is silent, your mind is loud. You don't just get time, you get clarity. You get dominance over your priorities. You get to start your day in control instead of reacting to everyone else's demands. Now picture this. While most people are still hitting snooze for the third time, someone out there has already worked out, reviewed their goals, and moved the needle on their most important project. By the time the average person is sipping coffee and checking emails, this person has already won their day. So let me ask you, what if the difference between those who thrive in the mornings and those who struggle has nothing to do with willpower? What if it has nothing to do with genetics, discipline, or motivation? What if the real difference is understanding how your brain actually works? 6 months ago, that same tech entrepreneur was a chronic snoozer. They woke up late, rushed through mornings, started every day behind, foggy, reactive, overwhelmed. But here's the twist. They didn't change because they became someone new. They changed because they understood one core truth about performance psychology. Your morning doesn't just affect your morning, it sets the code for your entire day. Let me show you the science. Your brain hits peak production of cortisol and testosterone in the early morning hours. But in this case, cortisol isn't a stress hormone. And testosterone isn't just about physical strength. These chemicals, in this window, are your natural performance enhancers. They're your brain's way of handing you elite focus and energy. But this biological edge expires. By mid-morning, those levels drop dramatically. And most people? They waste this power window doing low-impact tasks, scrolling social media, checking emails, stumbling around in a reactive daze. Then they wonder why they can't concentrate, why they feel behind, or why nothing important gets done. Successful people protect this window. They guard it. They design their lives around it. They don't start with chaos. They start with clarity. They don't rush. They rise with purpose. They channel that peak state into their goals before the world even wakes up. Take the financial advisor who doubled their business. They didn't just set a 5 a.m. alarm, they reprogrammed the way they start their day. No emails before sunrise, no distractions before direction. First hour. Business growth, skill building, clear visualization. They don't check the news. They create their own. The 5 a.m. advantage isn't a time. It's a mindset. It's the decision to own your mornings, so you can own your life. Because how you start your day becomes how you live your life. Your next choice? That's your next vote. Are you voting to stay comfortable or to rise with intention? Tomorrow starts now. They thought they were fixing their morning. What they didn't realize was they were rewriting their future. It didn't start with a perfect plan. No 5 a.m. alarms, no cold plunges. Number 12-step checklist. Just one intentional choice, repeated consistently. And that's when everything changed. Their focus didn't just improve in the morning, it sharpened throughout the day. They made faster decisions, clearer choices, and their energy didn't crash by 2 p.m. like it used to. They didn't just upgrade a routine, they upgraded their entire life trajectory. This is the hidden power of morning optimization. When you win the morning, You don't just win the morning, you win the day. When you win the day consistently, you start winning the week, then the month, then the year. And if you do it long enough, you win your life. But most people never get to that point because they sabotage themselves at the starting line. They get motivated and try to do everything at once. Wake up at 5 a.m., meditate for 30 minutes, hit the gym for an hour, journal, read, visualize, all before breakfast. And it sounds amazing on paper, but in reality, it collapses fast. Because they're not just trying to change their habits, they're trying to fight their identity, their routines, and their biology, all at the same time. The brain doesn't like abrupt overhaul. It sees it as a threat, so it resists. You hit snooze, you miss one thing, then another. You feel guilty, then you quit, and the cycle repeats. But the problem isn't discipline, it's design. The secret isn't building the perfect morning, it's building a believable one. One that's too small to fail, yet powerful enough to create momentum. Not 30 minutes of meditation, 2 minutes of quiet. Not an hour of reading, 1 page. Not a total lifestyle reset, 1 better decision after waking up. Because once you prove to your brain, I'm the kind of person who follows through, it stops fighting you. It starts working with you. And that's when mornings stop feeling like a chore and start feeling like a launch pad. Because the compound effect is real. And it doesn't just build success, it builds self-respect. And once you earn that back, you don't just change your mornings, you change who you are. The secret isn't to wake up early, it's to wake up with purpose. Everyone talks about morning routines like they're supposed to be massive. 2-hour rituals, cold showers, breathwork, journaling, cardio, visualization. It sounds impressive until real life hits. The truth? That's not how sustainable change works. You don't build momentum by going big. You build it by making failure impossible. The marketing manager who completely transformed their mornings didn't start with a blueprint from some millionaire's YouTube vlog. They started by waking up just 15 minutes earlier. That's it. 1 page, 1 push-up, 1 journal sentence. The activity didn't matter. The consistency did. They weren't building a perfect routine. They were building proof. Proof that they could show up. Even on tired days. Even on messy days. And then something happened. 15 minutes became 30. 30 became 45. And without forcing it, 45 became an hour. Because when you start seeing results, when your brain finally gets a taste of progress, you don't need motivation anymore. You want more of what's working. They didn't just feel better. They accomplished more before 8 a.m. than they used to all day. But the biggest shift wasn't external. It was internal. They started to believe it. I'm the kind of person who invests in my mornings. I'm the kind of person who takes control of my time. I'm the kind of person who shows up for myself, even when it's inconvenient. That's what this is really about. Because once your identity shifts, your habits stop feeling like effort. They start feeling like alignment. It's no longer, I have to wake up early. It becomes, this is who I am now. And when that happens, you don't just wake up earlier. You wake up stronger, clearer, more powerful. Not because of the routine, but because of who you've become through it. There's something powerful that happens when you stop starting your days in survival mode. No snooze button, no racing against the clock, no jumping straight into stress. Instead, you create space. And in that space, you build something most people never experience. Control. See, the real advantage of a morning routine isn't just productivity, it's identity. When you start your day with intention, doing something just for you, you send a signal to your brain. I follow through. I choose growth. I lead my life. I don't chase it. You're not just being productive. You're becoming powerful. That's what the software engineer discovered. They weren't just checking tasks off before 9 a.m. They were showing up differently. At work, in meetings, in their relationships. More calm, more confident, more grounded in who they were becoming. They started speaking up more, taking on bigger projects, seeing themselves as someone worthy of bigger goals. Because that's what a consistent morning routine really builds. Proof. Proof that you can delay comfort. Proof that you can prioritize long-term gain. Proof that you're not at the mercy of your emotions or excuses. And that proof, it changes you. It rewires your identity. And once your identity starts shifting, your life follows. This is where most people miss the point. They think the key is doing more. More journaling, more workouts, more hacks. But the most powerful morning routines? They aren't about how much you do. They're about how deeply you tune your mind. It's mental calibration. Before the world throws its chaos at you. Before emails, traffic, noise, distractions. You've already locked in your focus. You've already chosen who you're going to be that day. That's not just routine. That's personal power. And once you start your day with that kind of momentum, you don't just survive the day. You own it. Most people think a morning routine is just a to-do list with a sunrise. Wake up, stretch, meditate, drink water, read a page, done. But the people who really win their mornings, they don't just schedule actions, they design experiences. Moments that shift their energy. Movements that activate their body. Practices that shape their state before the world even touches them. That's exactly what the project manager figured out. They weren't trying to force discipline. They were crafting a runway. One that took them from groggy to grounded, then from grounded to on fire. And the results? They didn't just feel better. They moved through their day with purpose. They walked into meetings sharper. They handled stress with more calm. They got more done with less effort. Because they weren't just checking boxes. They were engineering momentum. This is the missing piece for most people. They try to copy routines from high performers, but miss what actually makes those routines powerful. It's not the activity. It's the order, the intention, the emotional state you're building. The most powerful routines follow a rhythm that primes your mind, body, and identity. First comes the shift. You gently move from sleep to alertness, not with chaos, but with control. Then comes the grounding. You activate your body, anchor your mind. You remind yourself, I'm here, I'm awake, I'm ready. Then, focus. One clear, meaningful priority that aligns your energy with your goals. And finally, programming. Not hustle, not panic, but a calm, focused visualization of who you're becoming and what today is for. This isn't random. It's a system that moves you from autopilot into command. And once you start doing that every morning, your brain adapts, your identity shifts. You stop being someone who tries to be productive and become someone who is intentional by default. Because the truth is, your morning routine isn't just about the morning, it's a vote for your future self, a vote for clarity over chaos, for purpose over distraction, for evolution over comfort. And when you start casting that vote, day after day, your entire life starts to align with it. That tech entrepreneur in the corner office didn't just build a business. They built themselves, starting at 5 a.m. Not because they're obsessed with hustle culture, not because early mornings make you better, but because who they became in those quiet hours rewired everything else. They stopped being someone who waited for clarity. They became someone who created clarity. They didn't just wake up early. They claimed the first hour of their day like it was sacred, because it is. And here's the truth no one tells you. Every single morning the universe gives you the same test. Your alarm goes off. And in that split second, you either cast a vote for your comfort, or you cast a vote for your growth. Snooze means, I'll deal with life later. Wake up means, I am life and I'm in charge. That one decision ripples across your entire day. Start reactive. You chase the world. Start intentional, and the world starts following you. That's the real 5 a.m. secret. It's not about waking up before sunrise. It's about waking up to who you are becoming. Because extraordinary mornings don't build themselves. They're designed intentionally by people who've made one decision. I refuse to live life on autopilot. Tomorrow morning, you'll have that moment again. You'll hear the alarm. You'll feel the pull of comfort. But now, you know something different. You know that 5 seconds of discomfort can unlock a whole day of alignment. You know that when you move while others hesitate, when you rise while others roll over, you gain an edge the world can't take from you. So when that moment comes, choose you. Choose the future you, the focused you, the one who shows up early not for perfection, but for progress. Because when you win the morning, you don't just win the day. You become the kind of person who wins at life. Chapter 2. The Neuroscience of Peak Morning Performance. The MRI doesn't lie. Peak cognition isn't about motivation. It's about biology. That neuroscientist staring at brain scans? They didn't just find patterns. They uncovered a hidden advantage that 99% of people waste every single day. Because while the brain is firing at its highest level, most people are doing the lowest value things imaginable. Scrolling, clicking, consuming. They're handing over the sharpest version of their mind to the shallowest parts of the world. And here's where the story gets painful. You don't get those peak hours back. Once your cognitive prime passes for the day, so does your ability to solve big problems, to think clearly, to make aligned decisions. It's like waking up with gold in your hands and trading it for plastic. But the people who win, they understand something most never figure out. The morning isn't just a time slot. It's a neurological window of greatness. It's the moment when your mind is sharpest, your willpower is strongest, your emotional resilience is highest. And if you use that window right, you unlock a level of performance that feels almost unfair. The top performers? They don't waste the morning reacting to noise. They protect it. They structure it. They prioritize the hard things while their brain is built to handle them. Because they know. What you do with your mind during those early hours sets the tone for who you become. So tomorrow, when your eyes open, don't just reach for your phone. Reach for your focus. Reach for your potential. Treat your morning like it matters. Because biologically, it's the most powerful part of your day. And if you can win those first few hours, the rest of the world starts playing catch-up. That's not hype. That's neuroscience. Most people sabotage their morning before the day even begins. Before their feet touch the ground, they grab their phone and flood their mind with randomness, texts, headlines, noise. They turn on the news and let the world dictate their mood. They rush through the motions in a fog of distraction, already behind before they've even started. And they do it every single day. But a select few do something radically different. They guard the first hour of their day like it's sacred. They treat those early moments like prime real estate, too valuable to waste on nonsense. They don't check their phones. They don't let the world in too soon. They move with intention. They think clearly. They act powerfully. Same 24 hours, different results. Why? Because they understand one thing that most people don't. Your brain is never sharper than it is in the first few hours after waking. Your mind isn't just awake, it's primed. Your willpower is full, your focus is fresh, and deep inside your body, something extraordinary is happening. It's called the cortisol advantage. Now, most people hear the word cortisol and think stress, but that's only part of the story. In the early morning, your body naturally produces its highest levels of cortisol, not to panic, but to perform. This isn't fight or flight cortisol. It's clarity cortisol. It's drive cortisol. It's the chemical foundation for your sharpest thinking and most powerful execution. This natural peak usually hits around 8 to 9 a.m., and then it fades. And the tragedy? Most people burn that window on email, on gossip, on scrolling, on noise. But the ones who win? They build their empire during that peak. They write, they plan, they create. They focus their entire morning around harnessing this hidden biological edge. And that's why, in just a few short years, they're often living a life that looks unrecognizable to the people who started in the same place. They're not smarter. They're not luckier. They just stopped wasting the most powerful hours of the day. There's a hidden window of power that most people sleepwalk through. It opens the moment you wake up. And if you understand how to use it, it can change the trajectory of your entire day, and eventually, your entire life. The most successful people don't just wake up early. They know what to do with those first sacred minutes. Because your brain, it's giving you something extraordinary in that window. Something most people throw away before their coffee even cools. Let's break it down. In the early hours of the morning, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for willpower and decision-making, is fully charged. This is the willpower window. You're stronger, more disciplined, more in control. That's why saying no feels easier in the morning and harder after 4 p.m. Every little decision you make chips away at this power reserve. Resisting junk food, checking your phone, even choosing what to wear. It all drains your tank. But in the morning, that tank is full. That's when you make the moves that matter. But that's not all. While you slept, your brain was busy. stitching together memories, connecting ideas, solving problems without your conscious input. Ever wonder why the best ideas hit you in the shower? Or during that quiet morning drive? That's not coincidence. That's biology. It's your creativity system peaking. A quiet burst of brilliance if you're still enough to catch it. And then there's your focus. In the early morning, your brain's default mode network, the thing responsible for wandering thoughts and distraction, is quieter. That silence, that's your chance. Your natural ability to concentrate is at its peak before the world starts pulling you in every direction, before the notifications, the emails, the noise. But here's the truth no one tells you. You can either amplify this biological gift or sabotage it. It depends entirely on what you choose to do in that first hour. Do you reach for your phone? Or do you reach for your future? Because every morning gives you the tools. The question is, will you use them? Most people never realize they're fighting their own biology. They wonder why their work feels heavy in the afternoon, why focus slips, why everything feels like a grind. But one person decided to stop guessing and started tracking. They were a data analyst, and every day they logged their performance. Same tasks, different times. What they discovered was staggering. In the afternoon, a complex analysis took them 3 hours. But in the morning, the same task took just 1. Same person, same workload, same tools. The only variable was time. That single discovery flipped their entire life strategy. They stopped wasting their sharpest hours on mindless tasks. No more checking emails first thing. No more passive meetings while their brain was at its peak. They built a system, a routine designed to protect those high-performance hours like sacred ground. And what happened next wasn't subtle. Their productivity tripled. Not gradually, immediately. The quality of their work skyrocketed. Stress dropped. Deadlines weren't a threat anymore. They became opportunities to win. Because now, they weren't working against their biology. They were finally working with it. But here's the twist. That kind of peak performance, it's not automatic. Morning alone won't save you. Peak biology doesn't mean peak results, unless you prime the system. Your brain's highest potential is like a door, and it only opens if you prepare the key. You can wake up with world-class mental energy and waste it scrolling. You can have full willpower reserves and spend them choosing between 17 different shirts. You can have the clearest focus of the day and give it away before the coffee even kicks in. This is the part no one tells you. Peak hours require intentionality. They don't wait for you to be ready. You have to be there, on purpose. Most people treat their mornings like a warm-up. 1 foot in the day, 1 foot still in the fog. They scroll, they rush, they react. And by the time they wake up, the best hours are already gone. But not this person. They were a financial advisor, drowning in meetings, distractions, and endless client demands. Until one day, they stopped winging it and started designing their mornings like a high-performance machine. No more rolling over and checking their phone. They went dark for the first hour. No feeds, no emails, no noise. Their mind stayed clear, focused, sharp. Then came movement. Not a workout, just light motion. Enough to get the blood flowing, to turn the brain on, not just the body. Next, stillness. 10 minutes of focused mindfulness. No chanting, no fluff. Just pure mental clarity, like sharpening a blade. Then the fuel, not just coffee. They dialed in a precise combination of nutrients designed to feed their brain. B vitamins, omega-3s, a hydration protocol that unlocked full cognitive function. None of it was random. Every move had a purpose. Every step was chosen to amplify their natural biological edge. They weren't just doing a routine. They were engineering a brain state. And here's what blew their mind. The benefits didn't stop at 9 a.m. That focus, it carried through the afternoon. That energy, it didn't crash at 2 p.m. That emotional control, it made them a better communicator, negotiator, and decision maker, all day long. The truth is, when you win your brain state in the morning, you don't just win that hour, you win the next 12. But only if you take control, only if you stop defaulting to chaos, and start building your mornings with intention. He didn't meditate because it was trendy. He didn't skip his phone in the morning because a podcast said so. He did it because it worked. A top-performing marketing executive, managing 8-figure ad budgets and overseeing a global team, quietly restructured his mornings. But not in the way you'd expect. No ice baths, no 4:30 a.m. alarm. Number 12-step guru routine. Just 4 non-negotiables that rewired his brain for dominance. And what happened next caught even him by surprise. First, he stopped touching his phone for the first 60 minutes. Not because he wanted to be disciplined, but because he learned that within 10 seconds of opening your phone, your brain starts chasing novelty. Dopamine hits, micro-distractions. A reward loop so strong that research from the University of Texas found even having your phone in the same room can reduce cognitive performance by up to 20%. Second, he moved. Nothing extreme, just light stretching, a walk around the block, breath work. Why? Because increasing oxygen intake and circulation boosts BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of it like Miracle-Gro for your brain. Third, he got still. 10 minutes. Eyes closed. Not to be spiritual, but to quiet the mental chaos. A 2018 Harvard study found that mindfulness reduces activity in the brain's default mode network, the part responsible for rumination, overthinking, and burnout. And fourth, this is where it gets surgical. He fueled his brain with a very specific nutrient combo: omega-3s, B vitamins, and a controlled caffeine dose only after water and protein. No sugar spike, no jitter crash. Just clean firepower for his prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that governs focus, decision-making, and self-control. But what made this different wasn't just what he did. It was when. The first hour of your day is when your brain is in what's known as the hypnopompic state, a rare window where creative access and neuroplasticity are naturally heightened. He wasn't doing a morning routine. He was hacking his neurological golden hour. And what happened? That focus didn't stop at breakfast. That calm didn't vanish at 10 a.m. It stacked. This is what neuroscientists now call cognitive spillover, the momentum of early brain optimization cascading into every action for the next 12 hours. Decision fatigue drops, mental clarity rises, mood regulation improves. The whole operating system gets sharper. He was working smarter and faster by 9 a.m. than most of his competitors did all day. But here's what nobody tells you. Most people sabotage this advantage within 2 minutes of waking up. They reach for their phones, they scroll, they swipe, they tap. They don't realize they're burning through their limited dopamine reserves like lighting a match in a hurricane. And once that chemical is fried, focus feels impossible. Procrastination wins. Impulse takes over. And the day is already lost before it begins. This isn't self-help fluff. This is neuroeconomics. Your brain has a budget, and how you spend your mental currency in the morning determines what you have left for the rest of the day. The top 1% know this. They guard their mornings like their lives depend on it, because in many ways, they do. So ask yourself, when tomorrow starts, will you drift into distraction, or will you design your advantage? Because once you feel the power of a day that starts with you in control, not your inbox, not the news, not the noise, you'll never go back. And the compounding effects, they're not just noticeable, they're unfair. The software engineer used to wake up groggy and grab their phone before their eyes had even adjusted to the light. Within seconds, their brain was drowning in chaos. Emails, breaking news, and endless scrolls of negativity. Sound familiar? That one habit triggered a cascade they didn't even realize was sabotaging them. Every morning started with stress. Before their feet hit the floor, their nervous system was already in fight or flight. Then came the rush, shoving toast in their mouth while checking Slack, scrambling to shower, flipping between tabs trying to catch up on life. But the truth? They weren't starting the day. They were surviving it. And survival mode is no place to create great work, lead with confidence, or build a better life. But something changed. They read one sentence that stopped them cold. Your morning is not a warm-up. It's the launch pad of your entire day. That line hit. And from that moment, they rebuilt everything. The phone stayed out of the room. Instead of doom scrolling, they stepped outside barefoot and felt the earth under them. 5 minutes of silence. Nothing fancy. Just presence. They noticed something strange happening. Their mind, clearer. Their heart, calmer. And within days, their code quality improved. Meetings went smoother. Ideas came faster. Why? Because they weren't leaking mental energy on nonsense before 9 a.m. According to a 2016 Princeton study, even just 10 minutes of intentional stillness in the morning dramatically improves decision-making, emotional regulation, and focus for up to 6 hours. It was never about doing more. It was about doing less, but doing it right. They eliminated what I call the 3 morning kill switches. 1. The news nightmare. Checking the news first thing hijacks your amygdala, the brain's fear center. You flood your system with cortisol, anxiety, and helplessness. Before the day even starts, you're already losing the emotional game. 2. The rush reaction. Speed triggers stress. Stress disables logic. You're not being productive when you rush. You're just panicking with purpose. 3. The decision depletion. Dozens of micro-decisions burn your willpower like cheap fuel. What shirt to wear, what email to answer first, whether to eat eggs or toast, it adds up. And by 10 a.m., you've got nothing left in the tank for the real work. The engineers started prepping clothes the night before. Meals? Prepped. They removed decisions, so they could deliver brilliance where it mattered. And here's the kicker. That one change? It led to their promotion. More clarity, more creativity, more presence. Because they owned the first hour of their day like it was sacred. And science backs this up. In a 2021 Harvard Business Review article, researchers found that individuals who structure their mornings intentionally outperform peers by up to 23% in cognitive tasks and report 31% higher job satisfaction. But that's not even the best part. What they discovered next changed everything. Morning optimization doesn't end in the morning. It compounds. The sharper decisions you make before breakfast, they echo in your meetings. The centered mindset from your breath work, it ripples into your relationships. The stillness you carved out at sunrise, it turns chaos into clarity when 3 p.m. hits and everyone's losing their mind. Your morning doesn't just set the tone, it sets the trajectory. This isn't productivity porn, it's neuroscience. And when you respect your neurobiology, life starts working with you, not against you. So, let me ask you something. What kind of day do you want to have? Because it all begins in the first 60 minutes. Control that, and the rest of your life starts falling into place. Don't just have a morning, design it, like your future depends on it. Because it does. And if you found this helpful, wait until you see what happens when you stack these small wins, day after day. Focus became sharper, energy more stable. It wasn't because they added a complex morning routine. They simply stopped doing what was silently destroying their brain before 9 a.m. No supplements, no cold plunges, no 5 a.m. alarms. Just one powerful shift, removal over addition, and it worked. But what if I told you there's a way to take it even further? Not just remove the bad, but actively retrain your brain to fire on all cylinders before the coffee even kicks in. Here's the part most people miss. Your brain is trainable, especially in the first 20 minutes of your day. It's called cognitive priming. When you wake up and immediately flood your brain with thoughts of success. When you visualize your goals, see yourself achieving them, feel it like it's already done. You're not just motivating yourself. You're rewiring your reticular activating system. That's the brain's internal spotlight. It filters out billions of bits of information every second and focuses only on what it believes is important. So when you start your day by mentally locking in on success, your brain starts scanning the environment for patterns, people, and opportunities that match that image. It's not magic. It's biology. In one study out of the University of Toronto, participants who visualized their future goals every morning reported a 21% higher rate of completing key tasks within just 2 weeks. This isn't some woo-woo practice. It's tactical mental conditioning. And the real magic? It compounds. Day after day, you start training your brain to filter out distractions, to zone in on what matters, to ignore the noise and zero in on the signal. So while the average person wakes up and reaches for their phone, you're already planting seeds of success in the soil of your subconscious. The day hasn't even started yet, and you've already won. They weren't just sharper in the morning, they became sharper everywhere. Because they realized something that most people never do. Morning performance isn't just about energy, it's about neuroplasticity. It's about changing your brain, one decision at a time. It started with just 5 minutes. 5 minutes of learning something completely new, not scrolling, not reacting, but challenging their mind with new knowledge. Why? Because even just a few minutes of focused learning triggers the release of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF like Miracle-Gro for your brain. It strengthens neural connections. It grows new ones. It literally builds a better brain. Then came attention training. 2 minutes of stillness, eyes closed, no distractions, just breathe. That simple act, repeated daily, began to rewire the attention networks in their brain. They weren't just calmer. They were more present, more precise, more mentally agile. Next, they layered in something subtle, but powerful: memory consolidation. Instead of reaching for email or TikTok, they took a moment to review their goals, to mentally rehearse what mattered most. Why? Because the morning is when your brain's memory systems are primed. Information you revisit during this window sticks. It doesn't just fade like afternoon notes on a to-do list. It becomes part of your long-term cognition. And the result? They didn't just perform better in the morning. They performed better in life. Memory sharper, problem-solving faster, creativity richer. This wasn't a routine. It was a neural upgrade. But here's the part most people miss. The most important discovery of all: your brain is adaptable. Every morning, you are shaping the very structure of your mind. You're either wiring a new capacity or reinforcing old limitations. You're either building better brain patterns or entrenching the ones holding you back. The question isn't whether your brain will change. It's how it will change, and whether you'll be the one consciously shaping it. They didn't treat their mornings casually. They treated them like a training ground, like a professional athlete steps onto the track with precision. This entrepreneur stepped into each morning like it was mental conditioning. They tracked everything: their focus windows, their energy curves, their mental clarity hour by hour, not out of obsession, out of commitment, because they understood the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And their system? It was built like a cognitive gym. They tested, refined, rebuilt, optimized, until they didn't just have a routine. They had a mental edge, sharper thinking, cleaner execution, deeper problem solving. And it wasn't luck, it was neurodesign. See, your brain has the capacity for elite performance. That's not motivational fluff. That's neuroscience. Peak focus in the morning? It's biologically supported. Heightened creativity upon waking. It's built into your default mode network. Stronger willpower early in the day? That's cortisol rhythm working for you, not against you. But here's the part no one tells you. Just because your brain is wired for morning brilliance doesn't mean you'll access it. That window, it's either used or wasted. Tomorrow morning, your brain will wake up primed. Cortisol will spike, giving you drive. Dopamine will rise, giving you momentum. Creativity will pulse, waiting to be directed. The only question is, will you train it? Or drain it? Because every morning, your brain gives you a gift. But only you decide what to do with it. So here's the moment of truth. What will you do with this biological gift? Will you reach for your phone and flood your mind with distractions before your feet hit the floor? Will you let urgency hijack your day before clarity ever gets a chance? Or will you do what the top 1% do? Harness it, protect it, build with it. Because your brain is not the problem. It's the most powerful tool you own. It's just waiting for you to stop ignoring it and start engineering it. This is the window. This is the hour when breakthroughs are born. And you don't need a perfect life. You don't need more motivation. You need one thing: an optimized morning. Because when you build your morning right, you don't just win the first hour. You set the tone for everything after. So the question is no longer, are you capable? The real question is, will you show up for your brain before the world shows up for your attention? Because your brain is waiting. Your potential is ready. And your breakthrough? It's just one optimized morning away. Chapter 3. The Billionaire Morning Blueprint. The private jet lands at 4:30 a.m. But what steps out onto that tarmac isn't just a venture capitalist. It's a weapon, mentally sharp, emotionally calm, biologically primed. While the world's still asleep, they're already 3 moves ahead. Not groggy, not scattered, but dialed in. Focused. ready to move millions before most people make their coffee. By 5:15 a.m., they're in the hotel room, lights dim, no distractions, and without fail, they start the exact same protocol they've followed for over a decade. No skipping, no guessing, just execution. Because this isn't about having more hours, it's about how you use the ones you already have. Here's what most people never realize. The top 1% don't just have morning routines, they operate morning systems. They don't just wake up early, they wake up with precision. They don't just start the day, they engineer it, on purpose, with purpose. Their first hour isn't filled with scrolling, stress, or stumble. It's built like a launch sequence, activating their brain, aligning their priorities, and hardwiring peak performance from the inside out. And that's the shift. Stop starting your morning like a civilian, and begin approaching it like an architect of your life. Every minute is a lever, every decision is an investment, and your morning, that's your edge, or your excuse. Here's the truth that'll flip everything you thought you knew about success. It's not about what's in the routine, it's about what's behind it. The private jet, the penthouse view, that's noise. Because the people operating at the highest level, they're not relying on luxury, they're relying on precision. The truth? Their routines aren't flashy, they're simple, but they're designed like blueprints for high performance. Every single step, every choice. It's all done with intention. Not because it feels good, but because it builds something. See, most people start with the wrong question. What should I do in the morning? Wrong. Billionaire-level performers ask, who am I becoming? And then, they build the routine to reinforce that identity. That's the foundation principle. Identity before activity. If you meditate, exercise, journal, or read, but don't know why, you're just checking boxes. But when you start with identity, when your routine is built around the future version of you, the disciplined you, the focused you, the relentless, no excuses you, then every morning becomes a training ground. You stop playing defense. You start building your next level on purpose. Because success isn't about mimicking someone else's habits. It's about designing rituals that serve your mission and your identity. That's the shift that turns routines into rocket fuel. And that's how high performers build lives most people will never even understand. The real estate mogul didn't start exercising to get fit. They weren't chasing abs. They were chasing capacity. They needed energy that didn't crash, resilience that didn't crack under pressure, a mind that stayed sharp when millions were on the table. The exercise wasn't the goal. Becoming someone unbreakable was. And that's the shift most people miss. Success isn't built on habits alone. It's built on identity. You don't just do the work. You become the kind of person who can handle the weight. And when your morning routine reflects who you're becoming, everything changes. You stop asking, should I do this? You start asking, does this serve who I need to be? That's when every minute matters. Every action hits harder. Every habit builds momentum. And that leads to the next power move, the leverage principle. Maximum impact, minimum time. See, ultra performers don't have more time. They just use it differently. While most people scroll, drift, or react, they stack their actions for maximum return. One decision fuels energy and confidence. One practice builds focus and emotional control. Their routines aren't longer. They're smarter. Because time isn't the enemy. Wasted time is. And if you want to rise above average, you don't need more hours. You need more leverage. The tech executive who exited for 9 figures doesn't waste time trying to feel good in the morning. They're not chasing balance. They're engineering leverage. Their 45-minute routine does what most people can't do in 3 hours. Because every action is calibrated. Meditation? Not to relax, but to sharpen decision-making before the world wakes up. Exercise? Not to get fit, but to boost cognitive firepower and crush stress before it hits. Journaling? Not for nostalgia, but to lock in strategic clarity and hardwire goals into their subconscious. See, the difference isn't what they do, it's why they do it. And how each piece fuels the entire system. Most people build routines like a checklist, but top performers build them like a launch pad. Because it's not about having a routine. It's about having a system that multiplies your impact. But here's where most people fall off. They chase perfect mornings and end up doing nothing at all. Truth is, ultra-successful people miss days too. They get sick. They travel. Life happens. What they don't miss? The principle of consistency. Because it's not about flawless execution, it's about having a resilient rhythm. They build a framework that bends but doesn't break. A system that adapts without falling apart. That's why they win. Not because they never slip, but because they never stop. The investment banker managing billion-dollar portfolios doesn't just have a morning routine. They've built a morning arsenal, not one version. 3. Full protocol for normal days. Condensed protocol for travel days. Emergency protocol for high-stress crises. Why? Because real life isn't perfect, and neither is success. The activities shift, the time frames flex, but the core principles never move. Start with intention. Move the body. Prime the mind. Lock in priorities. This is the difference between routines that fade in 3 weeks and systems that drive peak performance for 30+ years. Adaptable, repeatable, bulletproof. But here's the deeper truth. Top performers aren't chasing morning miracles. They're hunting for tiny edges, small actions, small improvements, over and over again. Because they understand something the average mind ignores. A 1% edge every morning compounds into an unstoppable advantage over time. You might not feel it in a day. You'll barely notice it in a week. But give it a year, you'll be unrecognizable. Success isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It's the quiet decisions you repeat when no one's watching. It's the invisible wins that stack until you can't be ignored. This is the compound principle. And once you harness it, you're no longer improving your morning. You're rewriting your entire life. The hedge fund manager who consistently outperforms the market doesn't rely on luck. They don't rely on hype. And they sure as hell don't rely on perfect mornings. What they rely on is slightly better focus, slightly clearer thinking, slightly more energy than their competition. That's it. Not 10x hacks, not miracle routines, just small edges multiplied daily. 5 extra minutes visualizing high-stakes trades. 10 minutes scanning trend reports others ignore. 5 minutes mapping the day with brutal clarity. None of it sounds impressive in isolation. But over time, that margin becomes a moat. That's the compound advantage. The edge that can't be caught by people chasing shortcuts. But here's what really separates high performers from hopeful dabblers. The systems principle. Designed for your worst day, not your best. See, most people build routines for the version of themselves they wish they were. Motivated, energized, calm, on time. But top performers, they design for reality. They build morning systems that still work when they're tired, they're stressed, they're running late. They just don't feel like it. That's the mark of a real system. It survives stress, it flexes under pressure, it adapts without collapsing, because they're not relying on willpower. They're relying on structure. You don't need more hours. You need more leverage inside the ones you already have. Start small, start simple. But for the love of your future, start with systems. Because when the world gets chaotic, structure is your competitive advantage. The pharmaceutical executive who built a multi-billion-dollar company doesn't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. Whether they're home, in a hotel room, battling jet lag, or dealing with personal stress, they still execute. Why? Because their morning routine isn't fragile. It's anti-fragile. The more pressure it faces, the stronger it becomes. Their routine isn't long, it's not luxurious, but it's bulletproof. That's the difference. This isn't about lowering your standards on hard days. It's about designing systems so resilient they thrive in difficulty. But here's the secret that 99% of people miss. The game-changing mindset that separates billionaire performers from the rest. They're not chasing a perfect morning. They're engineering perfect momentum. See, the entertainment mogul who built a global media empire doesn't wake up for the sake of having a healthy routine. They wake up to program their entire day for performance. Every action is a domino, designed to knock over the next, bigger domino across the next 16 hours. That's the purpose of a real morning system. Not to feel productive, but to become unstoppable. They don't just exercise for the endorphin rush during the workout. They exercise for the emotional control they'll need in a high-stakes negotiation later that day. They don't just meditate to feel calm afterward. They meditate to train their nervous system to stay grounded when everything around them is on fire. They don't plan their day just to be organized. They plan to mentally rehearse victory. So when the moment comes, it's not luck, it's execution. This is the mindset shift. Ultra performers don't see their mornings as isolated rituals. They see them as weaponized preparation, a launch sequence for real-world dominance. This forward-thinking approach transforms their morning from a healthy habit into a performance protocol, a competitive edge in disguise. Now here's the part most people never get to see, the actual blueprint, designed to work even when motivation is low and time is tight. Phase 1, activation, 5 to 10 minutes. Purpose, shift from sleep mode to focused alertness. Action, light movement, water, breath control. Outcome, wake up the body without triggering stress. Phase 2, preparation, 10 to 15 minutes. Purpose, calm the nervous system, prime the brain. Action, meditation, visualization, or short-form learning. Outcome, inner stillness plus mental clarity. Phase 3, planning, 10 to 15 minutes. Purpose, set the day's trajectory with intention. Action, review goals, block time, rank top 3 priorities. Outcome, strategic focus and emotional alignment. Phase 4, priming, 10 to 20 minutes. Purpose, generate forward momentum. Action, brief skill practice, creative work, or physical intensity. Outcome, confidence, identity reinforcement, and action readiness. This is the real game. Not perfection, precision. The specific actions inside each phase of your morning, they'll vary. Your goals aren't identical to anyone else's. Your challenges aren't either. But here's what must stay consistent: the structure, the purpose, the outcome. Because here's the real truth about the billionaire morning blueprint. It's not about copying successful people. It's about understanding why they do what they do, then translating that into your life. The fashion executive who scaled a global brand didn't mimic someone else's miracle morning. They reverse-engineered the internal state they needed. Clarity under pressure, creativity on demand, leadership with presence, and built a routine that delivered that state daily. They didn't follow a plan. They built a system. That's the line that separates average from elite. A routine is something you do when conditions are perfect. A system works for you even when they're not. So ask yourself, what state do you need to create each morning to win the day? Maybe it's emotional resilience. Maybe it's laser focus. Maybe it's deep strategy or unshakable confidence. Then build your system. Not for who you are now, but for who you're becoming. Because while others wake up reacting to life, the venture capitalist stepping into their first meeting has already engineered a competitive advantage. More clarity, more energy, more focus, more confidence. Not because they were born with it, but because they designed it. You have the same 24 hours they do, the same principles at your fingertips, the same biological hardware, the same potential for transformation. The difference? They engineered it. You might still be treating it like a casual habit. This is where the shift happens. Because a morning routine isn't just self-care. It's not just productivity. It's leverage. It's a strategic weapon. If you choose to design it that way, the people operating at the highest level don't stumble into high performance. They build it, brick by brick, system by system. They don't hope to feel focused or energized or sharp. They engineer those outcomes. And so can you. But it starts with a decision. Will you treat your mornings like something to get through? Or something that gets you ahead? Your blueprint is waiting to be built. Your system is ready to be designed. Your transformation is one optimized morning away. So the only question left is, what will you engineer? Chapter 4, The Psychology of Morning Momentum. The stopwatch reads 6:23 a.m. A management consultant sits at their kitchen table, staring at a blank journal page. The coffee steam curls up, untouched. Their pen hovers above the paper, but nothing comes out. They know they should write something. Something meaningful. Something that will set a tone of clarity, purpose, power. But their mind feels foggy. Their motivation feels low. And the voice in their head whispers, maybe tomorrow. Maybe when you feel more inspired. This is the moment where most morning routines die. Not because people don't know what to do. Not because they lack ambition. Not because they haven't heard all the benefits. They die because people misunderstand the psychology of momentum. They keep trying to feel their way into action, instead of acting their way into clarity. They're waiting for the spark. But the spark comes after friction. We've been taught that motivation leads to action, but in reality, it's the opposite. Action leads to motivation. Movement creates momentum. The brain rewards action with chemistry. Dopamine, norepinephrine, clarity. But not before the first step, only after. Neuroscientist Dr. Andrew Huberman explains this beautifully. The brain doesn't just respond to external rewards, it responds to forward motion. You take a step and the chemicals follow. You show up and the readiness arrives. Think about that. The most powerful shift in your life won't be triggered by a burst of inspiration. It'll come from the moment you choose to move before you feel ready. The person who transforms their life isn't the one who wakes up motivated. It's the one who wakes up committed. They journal even when their thoughts feel scattered. They train even when they feel slow. They plan even when they feel behind. Because they understand something most people never learn. You don't wait for energy, you create it. Let that sink in. The morning isn't just a routine, it's a launch pad, a pattern interrupt. A signal to your nervous system that today will not be passive, that you are not at the mercy of circumstance. The stopwatch reads 6:24 a.m. now. The consultant finally writes one line. It's not profound, it's not polished, but it's the spark. Because now they've begun, and that's all it ever takes. But there's a deeper psychological force that separates people who build lasting routines from those who keep starting over. It's not willpower. It's not motivation. It's something far more fundamental and far more powerful. It's called the momentum effect. And if you understand this, you'll stop forcing your morning routine and start flowing through it like second nature. Picture the management consultant again. Same early morning, same blank journal page, same hesitation. What they're actually fighting isn't laziness. It's not lack of discipline, it's activation energy. The invisible resistance your brain creates before starting any task. Every behavior has it. Some actions have high activation energy, like starting a difficult project. Others have low, like grabbing your phone. Now here's the part most people miss. Your brain is constantly scanning for the easiest possible option. And unless you intentionally change the equation, it will always choose the path of least resistance. That's why you scroll before you stretch. Why you check email before journaling. Why you procrastinate instead of prepping your day. It's not a character flaw. It's physics, neurological physics. But the people who win, they don't fight this truth. They use it. They design their mornings so the easiest option is the right one. They lower the activation energy of high-impact habits. They remove the friction that kills momentum before it starts. The journal is already open on the desk. The workout clothes are already laid out. The calendar is already primed with focus blocks. They don't make decisions in the morning. They follow systems they built when their brain was clear, because they know the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your design. The financial advisor who transformed their life didn't begin with a perfect morning routine. They didn't dive into an hour of journaling or commit to a full workout from day one. They started with the easiest possible version of the behavior they wanted to build. One sentence in a journal. Not 30 minutes, just one line. One piece of paper. One thought. Not a full workout, just putting on their gym clothes. Not 20 minutes of meditation, just 3 slow, deep breaths. And that tiny shift made all the difference. Why? Because those micro-commitments had virtually zero activation energy, and the brain couldn't resist them. But then something else happened. Something even more powerful. Once the action started, momentum took over. That one sentence often turned into a full paragraph. Putting on workout clothes led to a few squats, then a few more. 3 deep breaths became 5 minutes of stillness. This is the momentum effect. You're not forcing yourself forward. You're being pulled forward. Motion creates emotion. Action creates motivation, and momentum builds on itself. But there's a deeper shift that most people miss. Every time that advisor wrote a sentence, they weren't just journaling. They were casting a vote for who they wanted to become. I'm the type of person who reflects. I'm the kind of person who shows up, even when it's small. Every action wasn't just movement. It was identity reinforcement. They weren't just putting on gym clothes. They were reinforcing the belief, I am someone who takes care of my body. That's how real change happens. Not from doing more, but from becoming more aligned with who you want to be. This is why most people fail. Not because they're lazy, not because they don't care, but because they haven't built an identity that supports the behavior they're chasing. See, when your morning routine is aligned with your identity, it feels like a natural extension of who you are. But when it conflicts with who you believe yourself to be, it becomes a daily battle of willpower. And eventually, willpower loses. The software engineer who finally mastered their mornings didn't try to overhaul their entire life in one shot. They didn't pretend to be a productivity guru. They didn't fake motivation. They simply started becoming someone who did one small thing for their growth each morning. Just one. And when that identity felt solid, they added another, then another. Piece by piece, they weren't just building a routine. They were building themselves. It didn't feel forced. It didn't feel fake. It felt earned. Because it was. But here's where most people quietly sabotage their own progress. They focus on the wrong metrics. They judge their routine based on how they feel during it, instead of how it shapes who they become after it. The marketing manager who struggled for years made this mistake over and over. They'd wake up early, go through a new routine, but if they didn't feel instantly energized or inspired, they'd decide it wasn't working. But they weren't measuring the right thing at the right time. A good routine doesn't always feel good in the moment. Growth rarely does. But what matters is how you feel an hour later, or after 30 days, or when life throws chaos at you and you still show up like someone who's grounded, focused, ready. That's the real return, not the rush, not the hype, but the identity you build from the inside out. That's what makes it last. The real shift didn't happen when they found the perfect routine. The breakthrough came when they stopped chasing instant results. Instead of asking, how do I feel right now? They started asking, how do I feel at 10 a.m.? How do I feel at 2 p.m.? How do I feel at the end of the day? And that's when everything changed. Because while their mornings still felt ordinary, the rest of their day began to feel extraordinary. Meetings felt smoother. Their thinking became clearer. Their reactions more measured. Their energy still steady at 4 p.m. while everyone else was crashing. By 9 p.m., they weren't drained and scattered. They felt centered, capable, in control. The morning routine wasn't changing just their mornings. It was quietly upgrading everything. That's the power of delayed benefits. It's not about what you feel in the moment. It's about what you feel because of that moment, hours, or even days later. And this is where most people lose the game. They do the routine. They wait for a spark. They don't feel one. So they quit. But mastery isn't about sparks. It's about trust. Trusting that the compounding effect is real. Trusting that every morning decision becomes an afternoon advantage. That every quiet rep becomes a louder result. Momentum doesn't always announce itself, but it always builds. And if you can delay your need for gratification, you unlock a version of yourself most people never meet. But there's one more silent killer of morning momentum. A psychological trap that feels noble, but destroys progress. Perfectionism. Most people believe their morning routine only counts if it's done perfectly. Miss a day? Failure. Shorten the routine? Doesn't count. Skip one element? Might as well quit. That's all or nothing thinking, and it's the enemy of momentum. It creates a mental setup where anything less than ideal becomes a reason to abandon the habit completely. But the project manager who built a truly unshakable morning routine, they knew better. They stopped chasing perfection. Instead, they engineered minimum viable routines. A full routine for calm, structured days. A condensed version for busy mornings. An emergency micro-routine for when life hits hard. The insight was simple, but powerful. Some version of the routine is always better than none. Because the goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to keep the streak alive. Even on their worst mornings, one small win, one intentional act, one decision that whispered, I'm still that person. That's what kept the identity intact. That's what protected their momentum. You don't need flawless execution. You need consistency with flexibility. You need a system that bends without breaking. And once you internalize that, you become unstoppable. But if there's one principle that turns a routine into a ritual, it's this: temptation bundling. Researchers define it as pairing something you need to do with something you want to do. It's how you trick your brain into enjoying what used to feel like a chore. The data analyst who couldn't stay consistent with morning workouts, they didn't rely on willpower. They relied on neuroassociation. They only let themselves listen to their favorite podcast while walking on the treadmill. They only drank their favorite coffee while reviewing their goals. They only checked their favorite social media account after completing their morning routine. And it worked. Their brains started looking forward to their mornings, not because of the discipline, but because of the reward. That's the hidden lever. When the routine feels good, you don't need motivation. You're drawn to it. It becomes self-reinforcing. But here's where we level up even further. Environmental psychology. Because your brain doesn't just respond to habits, it responds to cues. And most people, they're trying to build new routines, while surrounded by old triggers. The phone on the nightstand, the cluttered desk, the cold, dark room with no natural light. They're trying to install high-performance behaviors in a low-performance environment. The real masters of momentum don't just design routines, they design spaces that make the routine inevitable. Lighting, placement, sound, smell. Everything becomes part of the system. Because when your environment supports your identity, success stops being a battle and starts becoming a byproduct. The entrepreneur who built multiple successful companies knew something most people miss. Your environment is either your greatest asset or your silent assassin. It's not about discipline, it's about design. They didn't leave their routine to chance. They engineered it, like a system. Their journal, placed next to the coffee maker. So when the coffee brewed, their pen was already in hand. Their workout clothes, laid out the night before. So when they got out of bed, the decision was already made. Their phone charger, in another room. So waking up didn't mean diving into dopamine. Every small adjustment served one purpose: make good choices easier and bad choices harder. That's how they removed activation energy. The mental resistance between intention and action. Because when you don't need to think about the next step, you just take it. No friction, no overwhelm, just flow. But here's what most people overlook. It's not just about your physical environment. It's about your digital one too. The venture capitalists who consistently outperformed the market, they weren't just organized in their workspace. They were ruthless with their digital inputs. They disabled notifications. They unsubscribed from dopamine drip content. They curated a home screen that triggered clarity, not chaos. Because they knew this truth. Your environment is always stronger than your intention. So they stopped fighting distraction and removed it entirely. They didn't depend on motivation. They created an environment where success was the default. They didn't delete social media entirely. They just removed it from the battlefield. No apps on the home screen. No dopamine traps first thing in the morning. Instead, they weaponized their tech for momentum. Their computer? It launched straight into their goal-tracking dashboard. No distractions, just direction. Their inbox? It only delivered what fed their focus. Newsletters timed to support their morning learning ritual. They weren't anti-technology. They were pro-intention. They turned distraction machines into discipline machines. But here's the most powerful insight. The one people don't realize until it's too late. Your morning isn't just about your morning. It's about everything that follows. The pharmaceutical executive who scaled a billion-dollar empire knew this better than anyone. Their morning routine didn't just make 7 a.m. better. It made 11 a.m. meetings more confident, 2 p.m. decisions more precise, 5 p.m. creativity more fluid, 10 p.m. sleep more peaceful. Because when you start your day with clarity, you carry that energy into everything. That's the psychological spillover effect. And it's not hype. It's real, studied, and replicable. You're not just building a better morning. You're engineering a more powerful you. Momentum isn't a moment. It's a multiplier. The management consultant sat frozen, eyes fixed on a blank journal page. The clock read 6:23 a.m. But their mind felt heavy, foggy, uninspired. That voice inside whispered, maybe tomorrow. maybe when you feel ready. But here's the secret no one tells you. You don't wait for motivation. You create it. With one deliberate breath, they wrote a single sentence. That tiny act, it shattered the paralysis. Momentum kicked in, slow at first, like a ripple on a still pond. Then it grew. One sentence became a paragraph. One small step became the start of a transformation. This isn't luck. It's biology. Your brain craves the path of least resistance. It wants the easiest route. That's why waiting to feel ready is a trap. But when you start anyway, before you feel inspired, you flip a switch inside your mind. Your identity begins to shift. You become someone who acts, not someone who hesitates. Every morning, the choice is yours again. Wait for motivation to magically appear, or start with the smallest action possible. Your momentum is standing by. Your new identity is ready to take shape. Your transformation, it's just one small action away. So tell me, what will you start with? Chapter 5, the energy equation that fuels peak performance. The biometric data doesn't lie. 2 executives, same job, same hours, same stress, but one finishes the day strong. The other, burnt out by lunchtime. Why? A performance coach tracked both of them for weeks. Sleep, diet, mood, focus, decision-making. Executive A, laser-focused, energized, still performing at 9 p.m. Executive B, mentally foggy by 2 p.m. Decision fatigue, sluggish. It wasn't genetics, it wasn't luck, and no, it wasn't how long they slept. The difference was how they spent the first hour of their day. That first hour, what most people treat as casual, is actually the energy lever for the next 16. Here's the truth most people miss. Energy isn't just physical. It's not just about getting enough rest. Energy is biochemical, emotional, mental, and even environmental. It's a system. And if you don't prime it in the morning, you're already behind. So the real question isn't, how can I stop being tired? It's, what kind of fuel am I feeding my system before the world even wakes up? Here's the part no one talks about. You don't just wake up with a fixed amount of energy that drains as the day goes on. You can actually build energy. You can expand your capacity instead of burning through it. But only if you know how. The performance coach uncovered a game-changing truth about elite morning routines. There are 4 types of energy that fuel your day: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. Most people focus on just one. They go for a run, drink coffee, maybe journal a little. But while they boost one system, they're unknowingly draining the others. Executive A didn't make that mistake. Their morning wasn't just a checklist. It was a full-spectrum recharge. Every habit, every choice, every minute was designed to activate all 4 energy systems. That's how they showed up strong and stayed strong for 16 hours straight. Let's break down the energy equation that separates peak performers from everyone else. And it starts with the most misunderstood layer: physical energy. Physical energy isn't just about whether you feel tired or awake. It's cellular. It's biochemical. It's what fuels every system in your body, especially your brain. And most people unknowingly sabotage it in the first hour of their day. There's a reason one investment banker kept outperforming everyone on the floor. It wasn't hustle. It wasn't luck. It was hydration. After 8 hours of sleep, your body is mildly dehydrated. Your blood thickens. Brain function slows. Cells don't fire the same. And yet, what's the first thing most people reach for? Coffee. But here's the kicker. Caffeine is a diuretic. It dehydrates you even more. So by reaching for that morning cup before water, you're compounding the crash. The top performer made one small shift. They started drinking 16 to 20 ounces of water right after waking up, before any caffeine. The result? Sharper decisions, faster mental processing, steady energy through 14-hour trading days. Sometimes the edge isn't extreme. It's subtle, it's strategic, and it starts with your first sip. But physical energy goes deeper than hydration. It's about movement, not for fitness, for activation. One pharmaceutical executive, the mind behind a multi-billion-dollar company, discovered something wild. 5 minutes of targeted morning movement boosted their energy more than a full hour of working out later in the day. Why? Because timing matters more than intensity. Morning movement isn't about burning calories. It's about flipping the switch. Just a few minutes of light movement increases blood flow, awakens the nervous system, and triggers a wave of energizing hormones, right when your body is most primed to receive them. They called it an activation sequence. Less than 5 minutes. Gentle stretching to boost circulation. Dynamic movements to engage the nervous system. A few strength reps to spike hormone production. That one micro routine gave them fuel for hours. No caffeine crash, no afternoon slump. Just steady energy that carried them through 12-hour strategy meetings without burning out. Because real energy isn't earned through punishment. It's built through precision. Now let's move to the second layer of the energy equation. Mental energy. Mental energy is your cognitive fuel source. It determines whether you think clearly, solve problems, and make smart decisions under pressure. But here's what most people miss. Mental energy isn't just about sleep. It's about how you prime your brain in the first hour of the day. A tech entrepreneur who sold their company for 9 figures knew this well. Every morning, they faced a choice. Start the day in reactive mode. Chasing emails, checking news, putting out fires. Or shift into proactive mode, locking in on what mattered most. One mode drained them, the other made them unstoppable. The key? Managing cognitive load. Every decision you make, every notification you check, every distraction you fight off, costs mental energy. And most people burn through it before they've even had breakfast. This is where peak performers win, not by doing more, but by protecting their focus like it's gold. Because it is. The solution was something the entrepreneur called cognitive conservation. They cut unnecessary decisions out of their morning like dead weight. Same style of clothes every day, same breakfast, same sequence of actions, not because they lacked variety, but because they understood that every decision costs energy, and their brain was built to solve high-level problems, not choose socks. But that was just the foundation. The real edge came from this. You can build mental energy, just like you build muscle. They discovered that certain morning rituals didn't just preserve clarity. They amplified it. A 5-minute learning session sparked neuroplasticity, giving their brain a wake-up call. A quick visualization primed their mental rehearsal system, so they'd already lived the day before it began. And a simple planning session organized their thoughts, reduced internal friction, and focused their direction like a laser. They weren't just prepared. They were mentally upgraded before most people even checked their phones. Now we enter the third layer of elite performance, emotional energy. Emotional energy isn't about feeling good. It's about staying grounded when things go sideways. It's about keeping composure when the pressure spikes. It's about having the strength to lead, connect, and inspire, even when you don't feel like it. Most people think emotions are about mood, but top performers know the truth. Emotional energy is about regulation, not suppressing your emotions, training them. The real estate mogul behind $1 billion empire knew one thing for sure. Their emotional state in the morning dictated everything. Every interaction, every deal, every decision. They couldn't control what the day threw at them. But they could control how they entered the arena. Their morning routine wasn't just about clarity or focus. It was about emotional regulation. They trained their nervous system before the world had a chance to test it. Each day started with a short mindfulness session, just a few minutes of stillness to build emotional awareness. Then came gratitude, anchoring their baseline mood in positivity before stress had a chance to creep in. Next, visualization, preparing their mind to face high-pressure moments with clarity and presence. But the real power move? They called it emotional rehearsal. Every morning, they didn't just think about what they might face. They felt through it. A tough conversation? They rehearsed feeling calm and grounded. A high-stakes pitch? They rehearsed feeling energized and compelling. A tense negotiation? They rehearsed feeling composed and strategic, no matter what energy the other person brought into the room. This wasn't wishful thinking. It was emotional conditioning. They programmed their nervous system to respond instead of react. So when pressure came, they didn't break. They led. That emotional rehearsal didn't just prepare them for big moments. It rewired their default state. They trained their nervous system to return to calm, confidence, and clarity automatically. So even under fire, they didn't spiral. They led with presence. And over time, they became the kind of person who could maintain emotional strength in the chaos most people crumble in. Now we enter the final layer of elite energy performance, spiritual energy. And no, it's not about religion. It's about meaning. It's about connection to purpose. It's what keeps you going when external rewards aren't enough. The media executive who built an entertainment empire knew this well. They understood that their energy wasn't just tied to deadlines or paychecks. It was tied to something deeper. On days they felt connected to their mission, they had fuel that felt limitless. But when they lost that connection, even the simplest tasks became heavy. That's why their mornings were built around one core goal: purpose alignment. They reviewed long-term goals daily, not just what they wanted to achieve, but why it mattered. They visualized the impact they wanted to leave behind, on their industry, their team, their family. And they reconnected every task, even the small ones, to their deeper values. This wasn't empty motivation. It was energy generation at the highest level. Because when your actions feel connected to a mission bigger than you don't burn out. You burn brighter. And here's the insight that brings it all together. These 4 energy systems aren't separate. They're interconnected. Optimize one, and the others rise with it. Neglect one, and the whole system starts to collapse. The venture capitalist who consistently spotted winning investments understood something most high achievers miss. Your energy systems aren't separate. They're synchronized. And if you structure your mornings right, each system amplifies the others. Their routine wasn't a checklist of disconnected habits. It was a synergistic system, where one practice lit the fuse for another. Their movement practice didn't just wake up the body. It cleared brain fog and steadied their emotions. Their planning session didn't just organize tasks. It reduced anxiety and reconnected them to purpose. Their mindfulness work didn't just build calm. It sharpened focus and deepened physical awareness. They called this energy synergy, where physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual energy didn't compete. They compounded. The result? They didn't just have more energy. They had aligned energy. Energy that flowed, reinforced, and expanded across every part of their life. But here's the insight most people never grasp. Energy optimization isn't about adding more. It's about knowing what works best for you, and doing it with precision. The fashion executive behind a global brand embodied this perfectly. They didn't waste time trying to do it all. They focused on what gave them the highest energy ROI. 5 minutes of gratitude gave them more lift than 30 minutes of complex meditation. 2 minutes of focused goal visualization gave more clarity than 20 minutes of scrolling the news. 3 minutes of dynamic movement gave more fuel than a full yoga class. This is how energy becomes sustainable. You're not chasing hacks. You're investing wisely. You're building a system that works with your biology, not against it. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is precision. Less time, more energy, real results. Here's the practical framework that turns theory into transformation. The 4-3-2-1 formula. 4 minutes of physical activation movement. Hydration. Deep breathing. Wake up the body. Prime the cells. 3 minutes of mental preparation. Plan your priorities. Visualize your outcomes. Feed your brain something valuable. 2 minutes of emotional optimization. Gratitude. Stillness. Set your emotional tone before the world does. 1 minute of purpose connection. Review your goals. Reconnect to your values. Remind yourself why it all matters. 10 minutes. 4 energy systems. 1 aligned high-performance day. This isn't about morning perfection. It's about energy precision. This routine is sustainable, flexible, and powerful enough to shift the trajectory of your entire day and your entire life. Because here's the truth. Energy compounds. The energy you build in the morning doesn't just fuel your morning. It sharpens your decision-making in the afternoon. It boosts your resilience when things go wrong at 5 p.m. It even improves the quality of your sleep at night. Executive A saw this in their biometric data. Better focus, fewer crashes, higher sleep scores. But beyond the numbers, they felt better. They lived better. Right now, your energy equation is running, whether you're aware of it or not. Every action you take in the morning is either building energy or leaking it. Every choice is either compounding your performance or quietly draining it. Tomorrow morning, you'll face a decision. You can roll into the day depleted, scattered, reactive, Or you can engineer your energy system from the moment you wake up. The equation is simple. The impact is exponential. And your peak performance? It's just one aligned morning away. Chapter 6. The Focus Revolution. Single tasking in a multitasking world. The notification count reads 47. It's 6:15 a.m. and a marketing director is already drowning. Emails lighting up, Slack pings coming in from the global team, breaking news flashing across their screen, and social updates reminding them what everyone else is doing before they've even had a sip of coffee. Sound familiar? This is no accident. Here's the brutal truth. Your attention is under attack. Every app you use, every platform you scroll, is engineered to hijack your focus. Entire teams of behavioral scientists are paid millions to make sure your brain never stays on one thing for too long. They've weaponized distraction, and for most people, they're winning. But there's a small elite group who refuse to play defense. They've figured it out. They know the most valuable skill in today's economy isn't multitasking, it's focus. The ability to go deep, to lock in, while the rest of the world spins in chaos. And here's their secret. That ability isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. And it's either reinforced or destroyed in the first hour of your day. Your morning is the launchpad for your focus. And the way you protect it will determine how the rest of your day unfolds. This isn't just about productivity. This is about taking back control. Because in a world that profits from your distraction, focus is a rebellion. And it starts the moment you wake up. The marketing director pauses, thumb hovering over a sea of notifications. This is the moment. They can scroll, react, spiral into the chaos of emails, pings, and algorithm-fed noise. Or they can choose differently. They can protect their attention like the rare, limited resource it is. Because how you begin your day isn't a small decision. It's the choice that shapes every decision after. And here's what neuroscience tells us. Your brain has two competing systems, and whichever one you train wins. The first is your focused attention network. It's what helps you lock in, go deep, and do work that actually matters. The second is your default mode network. It's the part that wanders, multitasks, gets lost in thought, clicks without thinking. Here's the kicker. When one is active, the other shuts down. When you strengthen one, you weaken the other. You're always training, whether you realize it or not. Every time you check your phone for no reason. Every time you jump between tabs. Every time you let randomness hijack your input. You're not just wasting time. You're rewiring your brain to stay distracted. And the longer you live in that scattered mental state, the harder it becomes to access deep focus, clear thinking, and real productivity. But the opposite is also true. Every morning you reclaim. Every moment you choose intention over impulse. You're retraining your brain to focus. And in today's world, that's not just a skill. That's a superpower. Most people start their day training distraction. Successful people train focus. They understand a neurological truth that changes everything. Your brain adapts to what you repeatedly ask of it. And when your morning rituals strengthen your focused attention network, you're not just building discipline. You're unlocking mental performance levels most people never touch. They guard their peak morning hours like sacred ground. No notifications, no noise, no digital junk food, just depth. Let me show you what this actually looks like. A software engineer, now CTO of a billion-dollar startup, once said their greatest edge wasn't intelligence or skill. It was one simple ritual. Deep focus mode. Every morning for 1 uninterrupted hour. No phone, no internet, no distractions. Just pure concentration on their highest priority task. And the results? What used to take 3 hours in the afternoon, they now finished in 60 minutes flat. Their mind was sharper. Their thinking, more fluid. Their output, next level. It wasn't hustle. It wasn't willpower. It was neuroefficiency, a state of elite cognitive clarity that comes from training your brain the right way. While others were reacting to the world, they were building it. But here's what most people miss. This wasn't just about getting more done. This was neural reprogramming. Every morning of focused work wasn't just productive, it was transformative. Each time they resisted the itch to check their phone, they rewired their brain for discipline. Each time they stayed locked in on a single task, they expanded their capacity for deep, focused thought. And every completed deep work session? It didn't just build momentum, it built identity. the identity of someone who could remain calm under pressure, think clearly in chaos, and deliver breakthroughs while others drowned in noise. That's not time management. That's mental evolution. They weren't just sharpening a skill. They were upgrading their operating system. This is the focus revolution. And the battlefield begins the moment you open your eyes. Now here's the silent killer that sabotages most people before they even get started. It's something neuroscientists call attention residue. When you switch from one task to another, without fully completing or closing the first, your brain leaves part of its focus behind. Like mental shrapnel, you think you've moved on, but fragments of the last thing are still clouding your mind. So while you're reading, your brain is still half processing that email. While you're working, it's still replaying that text. You feel foggy, unmotivated, like you're running through water. And you don't know why. But the elite, they know. Take the venture capitalist who always spotted winners before the market did. They learned the hard way. Checking email first thing in the morning left their minds splintered. Even hours later, they'd still be mentally tethered to those messages, subconsciously problem-solving inbox clutter while trying to assess million-dollar investments. So they stopped. They built a sacred morning protocol. No inputs, no noise, just quiet, thinking, strategy. And their clarity skyrocketed. The solution they found? It wasn't ordinary. It was radical. They initiated what they called a digital quarantine. For the first 2 hours of their day, no phone, no emails, no internet, no news, not to disconnect from the world, but to reconnect fully with their own thinking. And what happened during those sacred 2 hours? Their mind stopped buzzing, their thoughts crystallized, their insight deepened, their decisions felt intuitive, almost effortless, because they weren't just avoiding distraction, they were stepping into a higher state of mind. One most people never access because their brain is constantly hijacked. But here's the real revelation. This isn't just about cutting out distractions. It's about training your attention like a muscle, with intention and discipline. That's exactly what one legendary pharmaceutical executive discovered. The architect of a multi-billion-dollar empire didn't credit their rise to strategy alone. They credited it to what they called attention training protocols. These weren't vague productivity hacks. These were deliberate neurological practices. Drills designed to strengthen the brain's focus systems like a Navy SEAL trains precision under fire. And the results? Mental stamina, deep work on demand, the ability to drop into flow state like flipping a switch. They weren't just working harder. They were operating with a different neural configuration entirely. That's the difference. Most people try to survive the day. The elite engineer their attention. And the first hours of your morning, that's your training ground. They didn't just eliminate distractions. They trained their brain to master focus, deliberately, methodically, relentlessly. Here's how they did it. Single-point focus training. They spent 5 minutes a day concentrating on one object, one thought, or one sensation. Every time their mind drifted, they brought it back. Calmly, without judgment. This wasn't just mindfulness. It was mental resistance training. It strengthened their ability to sustain attention and recognize distraction the moment it appeared. Task switching. Resistance. Whenever they felt the pull to switch tasks, they stayed exactly where they were, even when it felt boring, even when their brain screamed for novelty. That moment of resistance rewired their impulse control. Over time, they built the power to stay locked in, no matter the discomfort. Deep listening practice. In conversation, they made a decision to be all in, not thinking about what to say next, not checking boxes, just listening, fully, intentionally, and without distraction. This trained their presence. It rewired their ability to be deeply engaged with others. Monotasking challenges. They practiced doing just one thing at a time. When they ate, they only ate. When they walked, they just walked. This wasn't about slowness. It was about reconditioning their brain to operate in focus mode by default, not in the scattered fog that most people live in. Each of these practices was like a mental rep, designed to strengthen a specific part of their attention system. And like physical training, the gains were cumulative. Over time, they saw measurable improvements in their cognitive sharpness, clarity, and decision-making. But here's what elevated it beyond productivity. The quality of your attention determines the quality of your life. When they learned to focus deeply, everything changed. Work improved. But so did presence. So did joy. So did connection. They noticed the details most people overlook. They found more meaning in conversations. They solved problems with deeper insight. They began to see clearly what truly mattered. One real estate mogul who built a billion-dollar empire experienced this transformation firsthand. Their business results exploded. But something more important happened. They became more present with their family. They enjoyed their hobbies more deeply. They slowed down enough to feel grateful again. That's when they realized focus wasn't just a performance skill. It was a life skill. And in a world addicted to noise, it had become a rare superpower. This is where most people get it wrong. They think focus means eliminating every distraction, every notification, every input forever. But the truth? It's not about perfection. It's about intention. The people who sustain high performance over decades don't live in silence. They live in the same noisy world as everyone else. But they do something most people never even think to do. They create protected zones, intentional spaces in their day where focus is non-negotiable. Take the tech entrepreneur who sold their company for 9 figures. They didn't retreat to a cabin in the woods. They didn't delete every app or vanish from social media. They just built focus sanctuaries. Strategic blocks of time, usually in the morning, where nothing was allowed to interfere. For 90 minutes a day, they entered a completely different mental state. No notifications, no reacting, no shallow work, only deep, deliberate effort on what mattered most. They treated those 90 minutes like sacred ground, untouchable, non-negotiable. And what they built during that time? Breakthroughs. Innovations. The foundations of a 9-figure company. The rest of the day could be chaotic. Meetings, emails, life. But that protected block, that sanctuary of undisturbed cognition, created disproportionate value. That's the real secret of the focus revolution. You don't need a perfect environment. You just need to design moments where your brain can go deep, without apology. Because focus isn't infinite, it's fuel, and how you spend it determines everything. Now here's how you create your own. This is where your day is either won or wasted. Every morning, before the world rushes in, you have a choice. And that choice shapes your mind more than anything you'll do all day. Here's how the highest performers protect their mental edge. The Focus Sanctuary Protocol. Phase 1. Digital quarantine. First 30 to 60 minutes. No phone, no email, no scrolling. They physically separate from their devices so their brain can wake up in peace, without being hijacked by input. This isn't about being disconnected. It's about being grounded. Phase 2. Single task deep work. 30 to 90 minutes. They choose one cognitively demanding task, the one that actually moves the needle. Then they go all in. No switching, no checking, no splitting their focus. This is where real progress happens. Phase 3. Attention training. 5 to 10 minutes. They build their focus like a muscle. One daily practice. Deep breathing, monotasking, sensory focus, or meditation. It's not just mental fitness, it's mental sovereignty. Phase 4. Intentional transition. 5 minutes. Before re-entering the world of pings and screens, they pause. They set an intention. How do I want to engage with technology today? That pause keeps them in control instead of falling into reactivity. This isn't about cutting yourself off from the world. It's about deciding how and when you let the world in. Because here's the deeper truth. When you can focus, you begin to trust your own mind again. You're not just reacting to noise, you're creating from clarity. You build confidence in your thoughts. You stop second-guessing your instincts. You start respecting your own time and capacity. The marketing director staring at 47 unread notifications is at a crossroads. They can tap the first one and begin the slow descent into distraction. Or they can guard their mind like it's the most valuable asset they have, because it is. One choice creates a reactive day full of mental fragmentation. The other creates a proactive day full of depth, power, and clarity. Your attention is under siege. Every ping, every buzz, every blinking dot is trying to pull you into someone else's agenda. If you don't fight for your focus, no one will. And if you win that fight, even for just 90 minutes a day, you change everything. Most people won't do this. They'll keep scrolling, keep reacting, keep wondering why they feel so scattered. But not you. Because you now know, your mind wasn't designed to chase noise. It was built to create clarity. You have the power to protect your focus. to train your attention like an elite skill, to enter mental zones that most people never even touch. That's not hype, it's biology, built by intention. The focus revolution doesn't happen in a dramatic moment. It happens in the next quiet choice you make. Will you check your phone the second you wake up? Or will you guard your first hour like it determines the next 12? Will you drown in distractions? Or will you rise above the noise and create something that actually matters? This is your edge. This is your battlefield. This is your advantage in a distracted world. One protected morning, one focused hour, one moment where you choose clarity over chaos. That's all it takes to start a mental revolution. And once you taste that level of deep, powerful thinking, you'll never want to go back. Chapter 7. The compound effect of morning mastery. At first, the difference was invisible, barely noticeable, easy to ignore. But that's how the compound effect works. It rewards the patient. It transforms the disciplined. And it punishes the distracted, quietly, over time. Group A wasn't lazy. They just reacted. They let their mornings be stolen, by headlines, by messages, by noise. Group B, they engineered their mornings like architects of their own destiny. And over 10 years, the data made one thing clear. Reaction creates stagnation. Intention creates transformation. You don't need a 10x hack. You need a 1% commitment, daily. You need to stop treating your mornings like a warm-up and start treating them like the launch pad of your legacy. Because when you master your morning, you don't just win the first hour. You shift the entire trajectory of your life. A better morning leads to better choices. Better choices lead to better outcomes. Better outcomes compound into a life that looks impossible to the average person. But to you, it's just math. It's just commitment. It's just the result of doing what others won't, consistently. So the question isn't, will one morning matter? The question is, how many more average mornings can you afford to waste? The next decade is already in motion, but you still get to choose the direction. This is the hidden truth most people never grasp. Compounding doesn't care whether you're intentional or not. It just multiplies whatever you give it. If you feed it discipline, it grows your advantage. If you feed it neglect, it multiplies your setbacks. That venture capitalist didn't win because of luck. They won because they made small decisions, daily, that bent time in their favor. Each minute they invested wasn't just about that day. It was about stacking momentum their competitors couldn't see. But the same way progress compounds, so does regret. One snoozed alarm turns into a scattered morning. One scattered morning turns into a reactive week. One reactive week becomes a pattern. And that pattern becomes a life of missed potential. Here's the brutal part. You don't feel the damage at first. There's no alarm when your trajectory dips by 1%. But give it time. And that 1% misalignment becomes a canyon you can't easily cross. This is why morning mastery matters. It's not about being a morning person. It's about becoming a momentum person. Because when you start your day with control, clarity, and intention, you build a life of outcomes that no shortcut can replicate. It's not dramatic. It's not sexy. It's daily, disciplined, and deliberate. And in a world chasing hacks, this kind of consistency becomes your ultimate unfair advantage. Let's get something straight. Every choice you make in the morning is either building momentum or bleeding it. That marketing executive didn't just lose time. They lost trajectory. 15 minutes of scrolling didn't feel dangerous, but it trained their brain to chase noise instead of results. And that invisible training, it echoed through every meeting, every project, every missed breakthrough. You don't rise to the level of your ambition. You fall to the level of your systems. And your morning system is the foundation for everything that follows. Now contrast that with the billionaire pharmaceutical executive. They didn't just win the career game. They won the life game because their mornings were multidimensional. A few minutes of movement gave them more energy and longevity. A few minutes of meditation made them calmer, sharper, more emotionally stable. A few pages of reading fed their brain compound wisdom daily. A few moments visualizing success rewired their identity from the inside out. This is where the real transformation happens, when disciplines in one area start multiplying across every area. Energy improves focus. Focus improves performance. Performance creates confidence. Confidence improves relationships. Stronger relationships reduce stress, and on it goes. It's not magic, it's math. And once that loop kicks in, most people can't keep up. Not because they aren't talented, but because they never made the daily choices that let compounding do its work. Want a different life? Start with a different morning. And this right here, is where most people sabotage their future. They quit way too early. They expect fireworks in 4 weeks. And when nothing explodes, they walk away from the fuse they were just starting to light. They confuse lack of instant results with lack of progress. But the real ones? The real estate mogul who quietly built a billion-dollar empire? They played a different game. They didn't measure success by today's dopamine. They measured it by trajectory. The first year of their morning optimization? Nothing wild, just a little more clarity, a little more presence, a little more edge. But they didn't bail when results were still invisible. They trusted the trajectory. By year 3, everything changed. They weren't just focused. They were outperforming everyone in the room. Their deals got sharper. Their network got stronger. Their confidence? Untouchable. And by year 5, the gap was undeniable. While others were chasing shortcuts, they were stacking compound wins. By year 10, the difference was so massive it felt unfair. But it wasn't unfair. It was earned. It was math. Invisible becomes unstoppable when you stay in the game long enough. So ask yourself this. Are you quitting because it's not working? Or because it's not working fast enough? You already know the truth. This is the real separator. The difference between people who transform their lives and people who just talk about it every January. It's not intelligence. It's not talent. It's perspective. People who play the long game understand something most don't. The compound effect isn't a hack. It's a law. And if you're patient enough, it always pays off. But here's the advanced move that accelerates everything. You don't have to wait 10 years for one area of your life to bloom. You can design your morning routine to compound everything, all at once. That's what the tech entrepreneur who sold their company for 9 figures did. They didn't just work out. They moved their body to boost clarity, sharpen focus, and regulate emotions. They didn't just meditate. They trained their mind to stay calm in chaos and make sharper decisions. They didn't just learn something new. They expanded their thinking and built strategic confidence. They didn't just plan their day. They realigned with their purpose, their long-term goals, their why. Every action had layers. Every habit had ripple effects. Every minute was designed to multiply itself. And that's what made their progress feel unfairly fast to everyone else. But it wasn't unfair. It was intentional. Multi-purpose habits, multiplied results, maximum momentum. The key isn't doing more. It's designing better. Now, let's get tactical. The multi-dimensional compound formula. Here's the formula nobody taught you in school. The real path to acceleration. If you want exponential results, you need exponential inputs. Not more hours, more layers. That's where most people get stuck. They try to optimize one thing in isolation. But compound growth doesn't come from isolation. It comes from integration. Let me show you the move. Physical compound. Choose habits that build health and boost brain function. Your workout isn't just for abs. It's for focus, energy, longevity. Mental compound. Learn something new, but don't just consume. Pick knowledge that sharpens your decision-making and upgrades your operating system. Emotional compound. Do things that improve your mood and build resilience. Gratitude, breathwork, deep connection. These reset your baseline. Spiritual compound. Reconnect to your purpose. When you know why you're doing something, you unlock energy that coffee can't touch. When you stack all 4 layers into your morning, you're not just optimizing a routine, you're building a momentum machine. But here's the hard truth most people ignore. The compound effect is already working in your life, right now. This very morning. Every day you're either compounding forward or compounding in reverse. You're either building momentum toward the life you want or reinforcing the life you're trying to escape. The software engineer who became CTO didn't just get lucky. They architected a system. Every morning they moved 1% closer to mastery. Every habit had direction. Every minute had meaning. Meanwhile, the marketing director stayed in reaction mode. Same phone scroll, same dopamine loop, same foggy brain, day after day. They didn't just stall, they slowly drifted backward. That's the silent danger of negative compounding. You don't notice it until it owns your life. So the question isn't if you're compounding, it's how. And whether your mornings are quietly building your future or quietly destroying it, two people, same world, same 24 hours, both experienced the compound effect. One built compound success, the other, compound mediocrity. So what made the difference? Perspective. The achievers stopped obsessing over quick wins. They started tracking trajectory, not just progress. They measured their growth in years, not days. And here's the twist that nobody talks about. They didn't just achieve more. They actually enjoyed life more along the way. Less stress, more clarity, deeper satisfaction. Because when your morning builds you, not breaks you, life starts to feel different. They weren't chasing dopamine hits or drowning in burnout. They were compounding peace, confidence, and direction. And that right there is the ultimate return on investment. So ask yourself this: is your morning routine just a checklist? Or is it a machine designed to shape your future? Because whether you see it or not, the compound effect is already at work. Every decision you make when you wake up, whether you snooze the alarm or set your intention, scroll your feed or sharpen your mind, consume distractions or create direction, is compounding into something. And one day, you'll wake up living the life it built. So years from now, when you look back on this chapter of your life, will this be the turning point or another quiet excuse? Because your breakthrough isn't in the future. It's not some grand reinvention. It's one optimized morning away. Choose wisely. Build deliberately. Your compound future starts tomorrow. Chapter 8. The Morning Mastery Blueprint. Your 90-day transformation. Day 1. Struggled to wake up just 15 minutes earlier. Barely squeezed in 5 minutes of journaling. The day felt scattered, reactive, overwhelming. Day 90. Waking up before the alarm. Crushing a custom-built routine. Movement, learning, planning, visualization. And then charging into 14-hour days with energy, clarity, and calm. The tracking app showed 90 check marks. But the real proof wasn't in the data, it was in the mirror. They had become someone different. Not just someone who wakes up early, but someone who owns their state. Someone who doesn't hope for a good day. They engineer one. This is morning mastery. And this is what happens when you stop treating your mornings like a side project and start treating them like your strategic advantage. Because here's the trap most people fall into. They try to change everything at once. They download a perfect routine from a YouTube video and expect themselves to execute like a Navy SEAL on day 1. They focus on activities, not systems. They chase perfection, not progress. And that's why they crash. But the ones who win, they build it like a professional would. One habit at a time, one system at a time, one intentional rep, over and over and over again. The transformation doesn't start with the routine. It starts with the mindset behind it. You're not just building a morning, you're building your identity. You're not just checking boxes, you're laying bricks for the foundation of your future. Because when your mornings shift, everything shifts. Clarity becomes consistent, discipline becomes automatic, momentum becomes inevitable, and the life you used to dream about starts becoming normal. So ask yourself, are you designing a routine or building a weapon? Because morning mastery isn't just a schedule. It's your edge. It's your launch pad. It's your unfair advantage in a world addicted to distraction. Start small, think long, stack wins, and give it 90 days. Your future self will barely recognize you. Most people fail, not because their goals are wrong, but because their approach is unsustainable. They try to build a perfect morning overnight. They download a productivity guru's 10-step routine and expect to stick with it just because they should. But this always collapses. Not because the activities are bad, but because they ignore how human behavior actually works. You don't build a high-performance morning routine with hype. You build it with strategy. That business consultant didn't transform with motivation. They didn't rely on willpower. They didn't grind through chaos. They built a system. They followed a blueprint. They gave themselves permission to go slow so they could go far. And here's the exact system they used. The 90-day blueprint for morning mastery. Phase 1. Foundation. Building. Days. 1 to 30. Goal. Build consistency. Build identity. Forget perfect routines. Forget long checklists. The first 30 days are about one thing: becoming the kind of person who shows up every morning. Because your brain doesn't trust grand intentions. It trusts repetition. You're not just wiring in new behaviors. You're installing a new identity. Weeks 1 to 2, the minimum viable routine. Start tiny. So small, it's impossible to fail. Want to exercise for 60 minutes? Start with 5. Want to meditate for 20 minutes? Start with 3 deep breaths. Want to journal? Write 1 sentence. It might feel silly. It might feel like it's not enough. But here's the truth. You don't need to impress yourself. You need to rewire yourself. You're not building performance. You're building the habit of showing up. Because consistency always comes before complexity. One financial advisor, now leading a 7-figure firm, started with this tiny routine. Wake up 15 minutes earlier. Drink a glass of water. Write 1 sentence about their top priority. That's it. No workouts, no meditation, no spreadsheets, just clarity, hydration, and presence. And it worked, because it was doable. They didn't just create a morning habit, they created identity alignment. They began to believe, I'm someone who starts the day on purpose. And once that belief locked in, the rest was inevitable. This is where transformation really begins. Not in big gestures, but in small wins. Repeated daily. Build the base, anchor the identity, then scale. Because the people who dominate their mornings don't start big. They start smart. But those first 5 minutes weren't just a drop in the ocean. They were building something far bigger. They were proof. Proof that they invested in their morning, no matter how small. Proof that they were becoming the kind of person who shows up. At a deeper level, they were creating new neural pathways, wiring their brain to expect routine, to crave momentum. They were laying the foundation for everything that was about to come. Week 3 to 4, the expansion test. Once your minimum routine feels like second nature, it's time to grow. Add just 1 new element. If you started with movement, add brief planning. If journaling was your start, add light exercise. If meditation was your anchor, add goal visualization. But here's the golden rule. Add only 1 thing at a time. Let it become automatic. Let it build strength. This way, your routine grows without overwhelm. Each addition strengthening your momentum, never breaking it. Phase 2, optimization building, days 31 to 60. Goal, make your routine more effective. Build unstoppable momentum. Now it's not about adding more. It's about getting better at what you're already doing. You're optimizing for results, not just checking boxes. Week 5 to 6, the quality upgrade. Focus on quality. If you're moving for 5 minutes, make those minutes energizing activation. If you're writing a sentence, make it purposeful self-coaching. If you're taking deep breaths, make them conscious and centering. The software engineer who became CTO had their breakthrough here. They stopped going through the motions. They started feeling every moment. Their movement wasn't just movement. It was a surge of energy. Their planning wasn't just planning. It was strategic intention setting. Their journaling wasn't just words. It was powerful mindset shaping. That shift, from mechanical to mindful, changed everything. This phase isn't flashy. It's not about grand gestures. It's about presence, depth, mastery. When you optimize your existing habits, you turn routine into ritual, and rituals become rock-solid anchors for unstoppable growth. The activities stayed the same, but everything changed. They weren't just going through motions or checking boxes anymore. They were creating real transformation. Week 7 to 8, the integration challenge. Now it's time to connect the dots. Start weaving your routine elements together. Design transitions that feel natural, smooth, and energizing. Create sequences where one activity primes you perfectly for the next. This step turns your routine from a scattered list into a cohesive system. A momentum-building machine that compounds benefits with every step. Phase 3, mastery building, days 61 to 90. Goal, build flexibility and sustainable excellence. The final 30 days aren't about rigid perfection. They're about true mastery. Mastery means holding your routine steady through anything. It means adapting and improving based on real-world challenges and results. Week 9 to 10, the stress test. Push yourself intentionally. Practice your routine when life isn't easy. Travel days, sick days, packed schedules, crisis moments. These are your real tests. Develop versions that maintain your core benefits even when time or energy is limited. The venture capitalist who consistently outperformed the market mastered this. They built 3 versions of their routine. Full routine for normal days at home. Travel routine for hotels and airports. Emergency routine for crisis moments. Only 10 minutes, but still powerful. This flexibility stopped their routine from breaking down under pressure. Instead, it grew stronger, more resilient, more unbreakable. Week 11 to 12, the personalization process. Now, it's time to own your routine fully. Review 60+ days of practice and data. Ask yourself, which activities deliver the biggest impact? Which feel forced or unnatural? What tweaks would boost results without sacrificing consistency? This final step transforms your routine from a generic plan into a custom system. One perfectly tailored to your personality, schedule, goals, and lifestyle. Mastery isn't a destination. It's a dynamic process of adaptation, resilience, and refinement. And this 90-day blueprint sets you up to win not just today, but for a lifetime. Here's the most important truth about the 90-day transformation. The goal isn't to build the perfect morning routine. The real goal is to become someone who has mastered the skill of morning optimization itself. Morning mastery isn't about copying a routine you found online. It's about becoming the architect of your own peak performance system. The kind of skill that adapts, evolves, and thrives no matter what life throws at you. The marketing executive who mastered this didn't just build a great routine. They built the ability to build great routines. When life changed, they redesigned with ease. When new methods emerged, they integrated them seamlessly. When challenges hit, they adapted without losing momentum. This meta skill, that rare ability to own your mornings every single day, is the real key to lasting transformation. You're not here to follow a checklist. You're here to become an expert in your own transformation. Here's the framework that makes this 90-day mastery inevitable. Daily success metrics. Did I show up? Consistency. Was I present and intentional? Quality. How energized am I afterward? Energy. How did this shape my day? Impact. Weekly review questions. What worked best? What felt off or forced? What can I tweak for better results? How is this affecting my life overall? Monthly evolution process. Analyze the data. Spot patterns. Experiment with one meaningful change. Test it for 2 weeks. Record lessons and insights. This isn't a routine. It's a living, breathing system that grows smarter every day. And here's the final, unshakable truth. It's not really about 90 days. It's about the rest of your life. These 90 days are just the foundation, the launch pad for decades of compounding excellence. The business consultant looking at their 90-day progress isn't seeing the finish line. They're seeing the starting gun for a lifetime of mornings engineered for greatness. Your 90-day transformation begins tomorrow morning. Not with grand changes, not with perfect execution, but with one small step, one choice to become the master of your mornings. The blueprint is proven. The system is battle-tested. The results are yours to claim, if you're ready. Your morning mastery journey starts now. Your extraordinary life is just one optimized morning away. What will you build?